With the explosion of YouTube channels in recent years, such as Summoning Salt, Games Done Quick, and various others dedicated to speedrunning, or beating a game as fast as humanly possible, it's no question that the art of speedrunning is undoubtedly popular and here to stay. In fact, in 2021 alone, speedrunning content amassed 1.2 billion views on YouTube. It is both a community as a whole and a plethora of sub-communities within. Heck, even within some games, there are sub-communities. As a busy person myself, I barely have time to watch others game online, but one person I have watched is my friend Alex, or H8Ø8. They are an avid speedrunner of Super Mario 64, and I found their runs very entertaining. Heck, I even watched H8Ø8 secure a personal best live one night on a 30-star run. So when Alex approached me about doing a collab video about speedrunning and mental health, well, I couldn't say no. This video will dive right into the problem-solving aspects of my previous videos, especially video 1, but in a more intense way. Alex has a lot to say about the subject, and I'll be sprinkling in my thoughts in the middle and at the end of their video. Well, without further ado, take it away, H8Ø8.
What is up, gamers? I'm a musician and producer of over 10 years. I primarily work on video game remixes, and I speedrun video games that are older than I am. Today, I am here to talk about mental health and speedrunning. There is a lot to say about video games and how they impact each of us at an individual level. Today, we'll be looking over some of the multitude of benefits to the passionate world of speedrunning and mental health. The first aspect we're going to cover is how speedrunning's core components are great for the mind and the body. But to introduce speedrunning, we first need to talk about sports. So let's draw on some familiar topics that we can relate speedrunning to. On the surface, the most infatuating component of speedrunning lies in its physical form due to the nature of gaming as a medium, and the dexterity required to pull off these highly skilled maneuvers. While ludicrous at first glance, speedrunning calls upon consistency and precision. Speedrunning can look at times like gamers are altering and breaking the game at will. The physical and technical ability for those impossibilities is not at all unlike the athletics of pitching a baseball or sending a football soaring across a field. Within fractions of seconds, circuitry in the brain remains the alpha and omega behind the release time of, say, a curveball, or the amount of pressure put into the kick of a football striking the back of a net. For the following visual exercise, I want to propose the mind-body applications of speedrunning through the lens of baseball.
This is Shohei Ohtani, one of the greatest MLB players of this generation. He's got some unbelievable stats in both hitting and pitching. On-screen at-bat is the legendary Mike Trout, easily ranked in the top 20 greatest baseball players of all time. During this game, they actually played for the same team in the MLB league, but during the 2023 World Baseball Classic Championship, they were rivals on opposing teams. It's the ninth inning, with Japan up 3-2 with 2 outs on the board. Trout could easily knock the ball out of the park through sheer strength alone, and Ohtani needs to focus on his arm and release to win the game. For both players, the pressure is on. Ohtani tests the waters with an 88 meatball to the dirt, testing the batter's instincts to swing at bat, but Trout has the discipline. Next up, a 100-mile-per-hour fastball and a swing comes out from home plate. Trout nods towards the mound to let Ohtani know if he thinks a fastball is going to stop him, then he's going to have to try again. Another fastball with a cut outside the box, but no swing from Trout. Trout saw the previous pitch's speed and knew this one was not worth chasing. Ohtani now has to think hard about his next pitch, or it could be his last. Another fastball comes out, making it 2-2. Ohtani knows he's getting into Trout's head. A full count from Ohtani starts to feel like he could be icing the batter on purpose. Mind games on the field are palpable. And then this happens.
Ohtani's ready. Trout's ready. 3-2. He struck him out! Ohtani strikes out Trout, and Japan's back on top of the baseball world.
mental hurdles can be seen in every pitch and culminates in the final throw. An 87-mile-per-hour slider that virtually paints both sides of the box, starting from the mound. The mental fortitude required by baseball players, especially in pitching, could not be overstated.
In baseball, you could have the strongest arm in the world, but if you can only pitch a 98-mile-per-hour fastball, you're going to have your work cut out for yourself. With an extended repertoire of pitches, like a curveball or a slider, baseball players must learn how to approach the game to take home the W. In a similar fashion, in speedrunning, runners may have to quickly defeat bosses or find themselves up against intentional barriers put in place by developers, both enemies of the objective for speedrunners.
There is an interesting aspect to Gelato Beach, however, that doesn't apply to any other world in the game. The episode 8 Shine, the Watermelon Festival, exists in every episode of the world. Since the beginning of SMS speedruns, people would occasionally theory craft ways to clip into the glass and collect the shine in episode 1.
Gelato Beach skip? Oh my god.
Then one day, along comes the Spyro speedrunner. That's right, the long sought after Gelato Beach skip, or GBS, was found on February 21st, 2014 by Tobal1, who doesn't even run SMS. This just goes to show that sometimes having a fresh pair of eyes is exactly what you need to solve a problem. And if he or she is already a talented glitch hunter, that also helps. While this may seem like an obvious solution, the reason it took so long to find was due to how precise the setup is. Not only does the angle require you to grab a straight edge and align the camera forward, but you must align the camera from this direction rather than this direction, otherwise it still won't work.
It is also required by speedrunners to analyze varying methods and overall strategies for enhancing their skill set to ensure victory and at a consistent rate. These nuanced differences are not at all unlike how pitching or hitting can affect the game of baseball. For both baseball players and speedrunners, these types of hurdles are common. For both forms of athletes, maintaining multiple angles of approach to the game are common when striving to be the greatest to ever play their game or simply trying to become masters of their respective crafts. While baseball may be more demanding on the body, this type of mentality gives us a strong idea of how traditional athletes and esports athletes approach the mind-body problem and ultimately can excel in their positions. They both must always be utilizing the wealth of knowledge they gain through their applied wisdom. Beyond a reasonable doubt, this solidifies speedrunning as an overall mental health positive. Even after looking at other commonly known athletics, any exercising of the brain or the body at higher levels of the game can be exhausting as well as exhilarating. But the freedom to determine your own pacing in speedrunning could even be looked at as a stronger case for understanding the mind-body problem. Now, here's the part where I'm just going to riff. The mind-body problem is a super interesting thing to think about as a musician and a gamer, and I'll give you basically two reasons why that can be applied to both. If you have somebody who's playing the guitar or the piano, both of their hands are doing completely different things. And when you try to explain how, one might say their muscle memory is doing the work. Another might say they're thinking about the notes before they're playing them. The real answer is technically both, which may not sound interesting, but to tie it back, in speedrunning, this happens frequently. Mentally, as speedrunners are in the middle of runs, they're thinking about, what trick should I go for? How much time am I saving? Is the run worth resetting? Should I go for more difficult tricks? All of these things runners are thinking about while their hands are also performing these insane maneuvers. Exercising hand-eye coordination has statistically proven helpful for mental processing speed, puzzle solving, etc. Repetition in practice of any skill creates quicker responses from the brain when recognizing a familiar task. Here is a Bruce Lee quote I believe best encapsulates how both forms of athletes approach the physiology of each sport. I fear not the man who has practiced 10,000 kicks once, but I fear the man who has practiced one kick 10,000 times. Bruce Lee. This quote embodies the endurance, training, and wisdom held in such high regard to all athletes with extreme accuracy, which is why Bruce Lee was the GOAT.
If I can just interject quickly here, I do want to note that this Bruce Lee quote is immensely powerful and shows that practice really does make perfect. The mind-body problem is something I want to talk about in relation to a topic I discussed in my last video about video game addiction. If you recall, I talked about open-ended and close-ended problem solving. What are these again? Well, let's say we are a bartender. A close-ended problem would be something like, how do I make a margarita? A close-ended problem is easy to solve because the tools and methods are generally obvious. An open-ended problem is something more like, how do I make a drink to please this person at the bar I've never met who just said, surprise me? These problems are a bit tougher to solve because the tools and methodologies are not obvious and take more abstract thinking to complete. I mentioned in my last video how Dr. K from Healthy Gamer GG, the psychology channel whose series about video game addiction I was breaking down, talks about how open-ended problems are hard for most gamers to solve because the tools and methodologies are not obvious. However, speedrunning turns this on its head. The example I used in my last video to show that gamers can solve open-ended problems was sequence breaking. Sequence breaking is just one tiny part of speedrunning though, and lots of the techniques required to pull off these insane frame-perfect maneuvers are the epitome of overcoming a challenge. I remember the first time I attended a Games Done Quick event, I watched H8Ø8, arguably the best Super Mario 64 speedrunner in the world, do a 100% or 120 star run live. I was on the edge of my seat the whole time. The things this person was doing to beat the game in a super fast manner blew my mind. I consider myself a fairly coordinated person, but my goodness, what they pulled off that night was so unbelievable that when he was done, he received a standing ovation from the room. Speedrunning is a medium that solves open-ended problems to the max. New skips, strategies, and faster routes are always being discovered. Sometimes this even requires the runners to pull off new control techniques as well. So this nullifies the argument that the tools are still there, controls and game mechanics, so it's not difficult. Being abstract about a game that is supposed to be completed one way and beating it faster than the developers ever intended possible is one of the best reasons why this medium is definitely not going anywhere. H8Ø8 will elaborate more on this in the next section though.
Speedrunning requires brain training. Flexing mental muscles creates a headspace ripe for problem solving and calls for collaboration with other peers, much like within the scientific field itself. With the initial inception of Speed Demos Archive, or more commonly used now, speedrun.com, runners have since been collaborating now more than ever. Observing, hypothesizing, and testing out new methods and practices alongside other peers has dawned the modern age of speedrunning for what is seemingly an endless cycle of discovery, even for gaming titles that have well surpassed their shelf life for retailers. The stories and the science behind these discoveries are a fascinating caveat to speedrunning as a whole, and an integral part of the challenges of overcoming adversity for yourself or even others in a healthy and beneficial way. In The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker, originally released during the life cycle of the GameCube, a thinly veiled barrier was placed by programmers inside of the castle portion of the game to keep players from reaching the final dungeon, aka the endgame. This barrier required casual players to find the intended items, weapons, and more to level up prior to fighting the final boss of the game. A path developers put in place to leave players with a sense of growth and progression. This, however, proved difficult for those who wished to push the limits of Wind Waker and reach the credits sequence within record-breaking times. The last world record set before players applied a scientific methodology to bypass this barrier showcased nearly a 2-hour time difference between the records being set before and after barrier skip was contemplated, implemented, and mastered. In its infancy, crowned the holy grail in all of speedrunning, barrier skip was theorized all the way back in 2011, but was not fully realized until 6 years later. Many different methods were tested, as seen in the shield setup versus the now outdated method of lining up pixels on the corner of the screen. Without the Wind Waker community utilizing the scientific method for its initial discovery and polishing the technique to be quick enough, this skip would certainly still be but a legend. A similar case can be found in the more recently massive discovery at the time of this video's upload, carpetless. This is a trick that was once known only as feasible by programmable means, aka tool-assisted or TAS. but has become a reality after decades of being something online users typed into chat rooms to aggravate live streams of Mario 64 runs. Barrier skip and carpetless were formerly ideas, hypotheses, until the right angles or calculations were found to surpass the obstacles considered beyond their means, which is absolutely incredible. Many times, we see these communities band together to solve problems for one another, ultimately leading them to share in the benefits of overcoming obstacles together. This sense of belonging can be an extremely positive benefit to speedrunning as a whole and mentally at an individual level. This level of cognitive and critical thinking by runners can be traced back to any number of studies on why keeping the mind sharp can be a crucial factor in leading a prolonged and healthy lifestyle. The benefit of video games has always been apparent, but what is required in breaking down a piece of software into frame-perfect equations or series of physical executables? What needs to happen to turn these impossibilities into a reality? At any point during a run, runners require the need for critical thinking and improvisation in their toolkit. These skills have real-world applications. Having these tools certainly translates to benefiting us in our busy work, social lives, and even our interpersonal relationships. Both critical thinking and improvising culminates in the form of backup strategies, researching technical mechanics of the game, and applying vast knowledge with quick reflexes. Life throws us curveballs all the time, even if these moments are unprompted. Having this quick wit or working with the tools you already have is constantly required. The positive mental aspects of applying this knowledge can be further strengthened when we introduce the concept of categories and randomizers to the world of speedrunning. Categories known as any percent or 100% are prime examples of how runners may choose rule sets that best fit their capabilities. These categories can ask runners to meet win conditions simply as fast as possible, or to comb over all the optional tasks set by the developers in record time as well. With the added challenge of randomizers to these categories, a new personal assessment of these skills moves to the forefront of speedrunning. No two randomizer runs ever look exactly the same, due to them being generated by extra software with multiple settings and switches to randomize a plethora of options. A randomizer may swap enemy or item locations. It also may increase or decrease the health meter of all the boss fights. These random settings can be determined beforehand by runners to increase the difficulty of the game they know from the inside out. These quick thinking and quick draw on the fly like skills are commonly less utilized with the passage of time. Randomizer runners willingly accept these challenges or curveballs more frequently than not, keeping a constant need for critical thinking and improvisation at the helm of their toolkit in runs and real life as well. There's many aspects that I could speak on, like routing options, blindfolded runs, and more, but I think these examples provide at least some insight as to why I love speedrunning and how I've seen improvements in the lives of gamers with a need for speed. With each aspect of speedrunning, there lies an underlying motivation for improvement and a need to face the challenges of adversity with guile or a sense of emboldenment. Really hope anyone watching this appreciates the video. Make sure to subscribe to me for more speedrunning content and theology to watch more on video games and mental health. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Thank you, H8Ø8. That was incredibly well thought and informative and interesting. In doing more research on this topic myself, I noticed an article written by Alexander R. Toffness about the psychology of speedrunning. As someone who likes to play devil's advocate and not live in an echo chamber, I must mention this article. Now, while it does also focus on the positives of speedrunning, it does bring up the potential negative effects it can have on one's life, and I want to touch on those for just a second. At times, speedrunning can lead to depression or anxiety, or social phobia, with some speedrunners acknowledging their community's mental health concerns. This is mostly associated with playing the games too much. To get good at a speedrun takes a lot of time and effort, and the correlation between excessive video game use and these mental health issues could potentially negatively affect one's mental health. This is true of anything done too much without any semblance of balance, though. H8Ø8, for instance, is not someone I am concerned about. Although they avidly speedrun Super Mario 64, they live a balanced life, which is critical to healthy cognitive functioning. If you want to explore this topic way more in depth with me, please see my previous video about video game addiction. Toffness then goes on to emphasize the positive aspects of speedrunning. particularly in terms of community and competition. Speedrunning communities form online, and their communities are full of people supporting each other and positive relationships. As mentioned earlier, events like Games Done Quick raise money for charity, something they are very well known for. In fact, to date, GDQ has raised over $46 million for charities throughout the years. People are often shocked by this statistic, but it's completely true. The speedrunning community is an incredible group of individuals that actually do want to make the world a better place. In fact, I got my sis, MediaKnight, to record a little blurb about how the speedrunning community has impacted her, and I would love to share that with you right now.
So for me, I got involved in the speedrunning community as adjacent from a bunch of friends that were streamers that were part of the speedrunning community, as well as several years of watching Games Done Quick. And you know, the speedrunning community to me means a lot to me because I've met a lot of really amazing lifelong friends, those that I consider to almost be like extended family, and really kept me going as far as a mental standpoint during the pandemic. People I met through the speedrunning community during the pandemic are people who kept me going, people that I follow and support and talk to on a regular basis, people who have traveled halfway across the country and have had dinner in my own home. So to me, one of the tenets of the speedrunning community that I always really appreciate is the fact that speedrunners are always looking to support and improve. I know a lot of times when, you know, your mental health is in a bad spot, you might get frustrated and you just want to give up. And one of the things that the speedrunning community is all about is just, you know, lending a hand, supporting each other, bringing, you know, lifting each other up, taking small steps to getting better at whether it's a run or working on voice acting so that you could be better commentary. It's definitely something that has been a huge benefit to my life, whether it's from a social aspect to improve how I make content personally, and also great friends and content creators that I've been able to collaborate with in the past and also made lifelong friends. But it's also really ingrained in me, these concepts of pushing to do your best. It's okay to fail and get back up, and that all rising waters rise all boats. We all pick each other up. We're all supported. And as someone who is outwardly trans and queer, it's a very, very safe and progressive community as far as LGBTQIA plus and female representation. So it's a very open environment. So yeah, I would definitely recommend joining the speedrunning community. There's all sorts of different Discords out there that you can join. You can go on and find a game that you like, and there's probably tutorials that you can go and do to learn how to speedrun some of your favorite games. And it's also a really good avenue for raising money for charity.
Thanks, sis. Much love to you. Moving along, the competition in speedrunning is also typically very friendly and pushes people to accomplish things that seem inhumane at first. It's also very honest from what I've seen. If you get caught cheating in speedrunning, as some have in the past, the integrity of the community kicks in and players can be booted from communities. The orderly manner in which this is conducted encourages people to always be fair with each other, which I find admirable. Speedrunning is something that absolutely enhances the spirit of never giving up, improves problem solving, and fosters creativity in said problem solving. The sense of achievement it brings as well can boost one's self-esteem, as the feats in most games are frame perfect and really hard to pull off. It can put people into a flow state as well, where they are completely present in the moment, something which, let's be real, is very much lacking in modern society. While in this flow state, facing setbacks, adapting strategies, and overcoming intense challenges in the face of immense pressure are valuable skills that can positively impact mental resilience and spill over into other areas of life if we let them. As stated earlier, speedrunning should be approached with a balanced perspective. This is done, the pros absolutely outweigh any negatives that could arise, which again are mostly just linked to excessive video game playing and not having balance in life. If anything is done in excess, it can negatively impact you. Even drinking water, the source of life itself, can be harmful if an excessive, unbalanced amount is ingested. So let's use our common sense here as well. We are gamers. We are smart. I refuse to believe anything else about us. If you believe that excessive video game use is starting to wedge its way in between you and living a healthy lifestyle though, please seek out help so that you can eventually return to a place where you can enjoy all the benefits gaming has to offer while not being affected by the negatives of overuse. And thank you so much to the speedrunning community, H8Ø8 and MediaKnight for making such amazing contributions to this video. Now I have to do the YouTube things. If you like this video, please subscribe and give it a thumbs up so that the algorithm will hate me slightly less as each day passes. I really want to get these messages out there, and I really hope they help at least someone cope with the circumstances of life and to become a better human. Remember, we can all do so much more united than divided, and when we are real and vulnerable with each other, we all can improve ourselves. By the way, I release a new club-ready video game remix every other week on Theology Thursday. So if you are into that sort of thing, please hit the bell so you become aware of all the videos that I upload. In addition, I do a monthly broadcast called In VGM We Trust on Twitch every month, the date varies, where I showcase the latest and greatest in video game remixes. That video always gets uploaded on my channel on the first of the month. Also, there is going to be a slight change in my content schedule from here on out. I am going to do the Quest Within podcast every other month, and these What Video Games Taught Me About My Mental Health videos every other month. So, you'll still get one mental health video a month, but I don't want to overdo it on content. I'm not nearly big enough of a name to be pushing out so much on you. This will avoid burnout for both me and you. That said, in my next What Video Games Taught Me About Mental Health video, I'm going to be talking about Groose from Zelda Skyward Sword. His character development was extremely interesting to me, and how he came around at the end of the game is something I think is amazing. Comparison is the thief of joy, and I very much look forward to analyzing his journey with you all. Until the next one of these, please take care of each other, and we'll speak to you next time. Take care.